I wish it didn't happen the way that it did. But because it did, hopefully he can use me. So I'm Justin Freitag. This is my story. I had a really good childhood growing up. Raised going to church, loving God, going to youth group, always making it to church. When I was 12, I got baptized, and I felt like I was on a path that God wanted me on. And when I got to high school, I had some upperclassmen kind of bring me in. And so I was eager to become a part of that friend group. It started out great, going fishing and having a good time, and then it started in with the drugs and the alcohol that people were experimenting in high school. So I'd party here and there with those friends, and after high school, I joined the service, and which my family and I thought was the best decision for me at the time. But I always had God in my corner and really relied on him through those years because I felt alone, and he had got me through that while I was exceeding in my military career, doing super well. When I came home, I ended up getting into a duplex with a bunch of buddies from high school. At that point in time, I was still attending church regularly, seeing my family. There was no problems and everything was going good. But as it kind of progressed, we were partying on the weekends. Then partying on the weekends turned into partying during the week. But I didn't really think there was any kind of issue, because everyone kept telling me, "Oh, you're 21. You're in college. This is what everybody does. It's okay." But I stopped going to church, stopped being with my family, because I knew that they wouldn't approve of the lifestyle that I was starting to kind of grow into. And then I met a girl, and the relationship it wasn't very good, and I never really understood why until now. There was red flags all over the place. And I tried to get my drinking under control, and try to mend that relationship, but there was no forgiveness on her end either. And my parents always told me, well, if she's not a follower of Jesus Christ, that she doesn't have the capability of having that forgiveness and that grace that Jesus has for us. But I just shrugged it off. I didn't know any better. So, but that relationship kind of went down in flames pretty quick after a couple of years. When that ended, I was drinking very heavily. I was drinking probably every day. I was drinking probably like around 30 beers a night during the week. But still making it to work, and the only things I wasn't making it to were family events, birthdays, holidays. I was basically just kind of pushed my family to the side. I started dabbling into like cocaine, and it was more so because the drinking didn't really hold the effect that it once did anymore. And I'm like, oh, I can drink way more while using this drug. And so then I started using, like, just on the weekends, casually. And still didn't think that there was anything going wrong. I then met another girl. Her name's Maddie. And I met her through the Army. We were having fun going out, and she was young, so she thought that was normal. But my drinking got even worse because of the drugs that I was using. I was pretty much pushing everybody away. And I didn't think I was pushing her away. But at about 2 years into our relationship, she finally said that she had had enough. I stopped going to work. I would just drink all day. I had an apartment that I was paying for, and that she was paying for mostly at that point because I wasn't working. And she decided to move, and so she moved to Baraboo, and I was in that apartment alone, and I had loved this girl very, very much, and I didn't have anyone to call, I didn't feel like I could call my family, because this has been now 4 years down the road that I had just pushed everybody away. So I just sat in that apartment, and I didn't work, and I drank and used drugs. One of the nights I ended up in the ER from all of the drug use. I was driving, and I had to call the ambulance because I couldn't move my body. And so when I was sitting in that apartment after a couple weeks, I was running out of money, and I had maybe a couple $100, and I would walk down to Quick Trip and buy alcohol. And it got to the point when I had no money, I was searching through my truck for change to go feed my addiction that I had, because I felt alone and I didn't have anywhere to turn, I felt. I was so far away from God that I felt like there was a black wall. And at that point, when I had ran out of all my money and I couldn't buy any more alcohol or drugs, I decided that I didn't want to be on this earth anymore. So it was 6:30 at night, and I decided I was going to fill up the bathtub and electrocute myself. And I was on my way over there when I just felt the presence of God. And I just dropped everything that I was doing. And he said to me that he's not done with me yet. And I didn't know if I was to be happy or angry, because I had felt so alone for so long. And I wanted him in my life, but I felt that I was so far beneath his grace that he couldn't save me. And so that night I just sat on the floor because I had no furniture in the apartment. And I cried. And then my sister showed up with my dad the next day, and I don't know why, because I didn't call them. And they wanted me to get help. And still I was reluctant. But finally I went and I stayed with my family. And that wasn't easy either. But I did know that I was still, God had a plan for me, even though I wasn't doing what he had wanted me to do. So, between the battles of my addiction and getting help, it was months and months of just trying to figure out, how to get me help. But it started with going to church and being surrounded by people that feared God and helped me go in the right direction. And so then I went off to treatment and came out just like so clear-headed that like God was with me through all of it, and I didn't even see it. Obviously, I made all those decisions, but he had never left. I just couldn't see him. And so through the battle of treatments and getting help, I really relied on him and re-put my faith and trust in him. And I was going to AA meetings, and I saw people time and time again just relapse and relapse and relapse. And I just couldn't understand why, but none of them believed in God. None of them had a relationship with him. And it almost started to seem easy for me to just, if I kept my eyes on him, I could just keep moving forward and leave everything behind. It didn't matter anymore. And I just, I prayed just for strength and wisdom and courage, and he gave me all those things. And I didn't have a job still, and so I was praying for about a week for a job, and I didn't even apply to this job. And my dad got a phone call, and the owner asked if I was busy or if I could come work. And it was just like, God just put that right there in my lap. And I don't know, I just feel as though that I'm not the only person that this happens to, and I know that I'm not the only person in our church family, or people in our church family that has family that is going through the same struggles as I am. And I just want to tell you my story to encourage everybody that God is faithful no matter what, and he comes through for everybody.